Welcome to the Flex Forward podcast, where grit meets growth. With your host, Nic Espanet, bringing you stories of resilience, reinvention, and the real climb to success.
All right, everyone, welcome to the Flex Forward podcast. Today we're joined by Gianluca. Gianluca is a senior finance leader in the energy sector. He's been doing that for a long time. I'm going to let him give you a little more detail. But Gianluca, good to have you on the Flex Forward podcast. Can you let our listeners know a little more about you and what you do?
Yeah, first of all, Nick, I want to thank you for these, opportunity to share some personal and professional stories. So I would start, I like to start with sharing something about me as a person, first and foremost.
Sure.
So I'm a father of three teenagers. So I have twins, a boy and a girl, Francesco and Olivia. They are 17. And then I have another son who's 15 years old, and I'm married with Elsia, who is from Belgium. And so we live in Houston. We moved to Houston in 2019, and we spent most of our life, recently in Houston. I was working, for a leading U.S. corporation in the energy. So my professional journey, if you will, is a 25 years plus, mostly spent internationally and across all finance disciplines. So I was very fortunate in my assignments to cover and to support my company, my corporation in significant, corporate restructure and let's say repositioning, based on a very changing dynamic environment that we are in the energy, and especially as most people know after COVID and even more recently because of some geopolitical tension.
Yeah, they're going on. So in that financial world, I'm sure there's lots of competition. What is something that sets you apart from some of your competitors or some of your peers?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. So I was thinking about, the period that we are living, these days, which is really, everything got changed at light speed. So the role of a finance, executive or professionals is to make sure that we stay always up to date with what's going on. The role of finance has evolved very quickly. There are some analogies that I like to share in this space. So CFOs were seen mostly as number crunchers, but now the expectation is by CEOs, by the board of directors to have valid, competent, skilled leaders, finance, resourcing, having a seat at the tables that will, help understanding what is in the market, how companies can win in the marketplace. So it's not only, giving the right advice to the CEO, but, showing to the CEO that, yes, I'm with you, I'm with the company to achieve the objectives and share responsibilities for those objectives.
No, great stuff. Is there something that as you've had your journey, that you feel like maybe comes easy to you that others have felt, others can find challenging?
Yeah, I mean, in my experience, uh, it happened that I had to work with people with whom I had different views. Well, that's natural. So we all are different. But I personally learn to leverage those moments of disagreements, those moments of tension between different views, and trying to find the healthy tension point.
Oh.
Okay. So the tension point was kind of a prompt to work better in a more collaborative way with different people and try again to narrow and focus discussion on what was common. So basically, trying to bring people again on, okay, what is that we want to achieve? What are the corporate objectives, right?
Oh, yeah,
That should be in the interest of everybody. So that was, if you will, my challenge to overcome some health intention point. But to your question, what was specific to the way I have approached, these tension points was always to assume the good intent
Oh,
of
yeah,
people. Always
very
assume the
nice.
good intent and try again to, in a nice way, to bring, those people, to bring those different views, into the discussion, right?
No, very
In a
nice. Yeah,
very positive way, not confrontational, but positive way, as an opportunity to grow,
yeah.
as a team, to grow as a company.
No, very well said. That's awesome. So, if someone's listening, have you come and they want to improve at something either personally or within their work? Have you had any avenues that you've been able to discover, maybe podcasts or books, something that helped you improve along the way?
Yeah, not really, any, if you will, external resource, if you will, but it was, within, the corporation that I've been working for so many years. It was, let's say, creating specific, let's say, leadership talk or leadership moments,
Hmm.
and creating that, safe space where everybody was feeling included, right,
Hmm.
to contribute, and valued, to contribute with different point of views. The other thing that, in those moments and thinking about how rapid is the change, everywhere in the world,
Sure.
and I'll explain a bit more about the background that I have in this Zoom call, is that, we all need to, and that's my view, we all need to embrace the change,
Hmm.
not be scared about the change. And that goes beyond the professional, work environment. Everything
Sure.
change in this, everything change in the family, everything change. I mean, it's the way you look at things. But, we need to be, mentally, positions in a positive way to embrace the change, not to be scared about it. Because if you embrace, then you find opportunities. And if you
Oh,
find
very.
opportunities, then something good will happen. So
No,
that is, again, not external resources, but was intentional, let's say, will to create, within the work environment, safe space to talk about leadership and how we can grow as a group of
and I
people.
think that's important in any industry or group is being able to save space or bring up
Absolutely.
opposition and not be beat up. I've been part of groups where if somebody brought up something that might be a challenge, they like, "Oh, you're being negative. You're not." And
Absolutely.
I didn't stay around too long. You're like, no, you need to grow. You need to hear. Now, you don't want somebody that's always negative, 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 but
Yeah.
you need to have people that are given constructive thoughts and at least consider them and process
And
and see what it could how it could affect whatever it's you're doing.
I totally agree with you, Nick. And, in those leadership, let's say, moments or initiatives that I was part of, one of my paramount, if you will, statement is that we all are leaders.
Hmm.
So leaders is not something that comes from a title, from a position in the hierarchy. It doesn't come with the authority that you've been assigned, but really it comes from the way you role model,
Hmm.
certain behaviors, the way you walk the talk, the way you stay consistent. So it's not about number of people, it's not position in the hierarchy, it's something else.
It's how you act.
Okay.
That's awesome.
So that everybody is a leader, right? And
Sure.
you don't, we are not born as leaders, but leadership is something that we can learn, okay? And it's something that you apply not only in the work environment, but leadership attitudes and behaviors apply also, within the family,
Yep.
as a father, as a mother, or, siblings.
Yeah,
That's my
for
strong
sure.
belief.
Yeah, very well said. So, well, tell us about your backdrop. Just for somebody who might be listening, he's got a picture of the kind of the earth, but at night with I think the sun coming up behind it.
So yeah, and in all honesty, before these podcasts, I was trying to pick the right, background just to hide a little bit of mess that I had behind me. But it's very consistent with the background that I've chosen to have on my profile on LinkedIn,
Yeah, I've
and
got it up on the other
yeah,
screen. So
it has a quote from a Stoic philosopher of the ancient Rome, and I was born in Rome, so I'm
oh, neat.
proudly, say that I'm Roman.
Yeah,
And Seneca, the philosopher, was saying one of the several quotes. He was saying, "If you want to change the world, first move yourself."
yeah, very well
Okay.
said.
So that is not setting on others' expectation to do, but we have all, capability to achieve the impossible.
Mm,
And that is why I wanted to put, the universe as a background because the universe is infinite, so has no boundaries. Like, the opportunities in a world that is fast changing. We hear a lot about AI, but it's not only AI. Look at things, every day on a newspaper from, technological advancement. Something that
hmm
days ago even seemed impossible. Now it's really, very, very, very approachable from a realization viewpoint. So that is, the explanation of the universe. So look at yourself, your person as a universe in itself, full of, opportunities if you want to
potential.
look at it in that
Yeah,
way.
and I've heard a saying about if you want to change things, draw a circle around yourself, and that's what you really have control over, and
Yeah,
work on that person in the circle, which is yourself,
yeah,
and things will improve around you
yeah.
too.
Yeah, the other question you wanted to hear more about, me, how I've, grown, if you will, as an individual, as a
Yeah.
professional. Um, so I would start by saying about the opportunities story that I was sharing with you all was that when I was a teenager, I was seeing myself as becoming a military pilot.
Okay.
So, because I had that, strong passion when I was 17 years old, I got two flying licenses. So I was enjoying flying the small Cessna aircraft, above Rome or in the surroundings. But the long story short, so I tried to enter in the academy and I didn't succeed. And I said, okay, so that is probably is not in my in my future, right? I need to
Okay.
look for something else. So I went to the university in Rome, La Sapienza University. There I got graduated in economy and commerce, cum laude, and then after this, I have practiced in an accounting firm for less than a year or so. But I have to say that after my graduation, I served my country. So for a year and a half, I was officer of the Carabinieri, which is military. It's
Okay.
one of the most regarded institutions that we have in Italy. And after this, I got my CPA, Certified Public Accountant, certification, and then another certification which is applicable in Europe, which is Certified Statutory Auditors, which was I was appointed by the Ministry of Justice in Italy. And then I joined these, big U.S. Corporation for 25 years. Now, in a long journey, there might be some changing points or turning points in
hmm
your career. So I can mention at least, two or three. One was, when I joined the audit team. This corporation is very well known for being rightly so very, let's say, control oriented. By the way, I mean, in energy business with capital intensive type of industry, you need to be controlled. You need to control, right, your asset and operations. And that was for me kind of a turning point because I learned about compliance, how relevant it is for big companies, for all companies, I would say, to be compliant, especially if these companies are international and operates in different jurisdictions, right, with different laws, with different
Oh yeah.
regulations. That was a very, very turning point. And that offered me the opportunity to travel the world and to learn working with different cultures because I was mostly sent to lead audits in North Africa and the Middle East. So
Okay.
that was working with people from other let's say culture, not only professional culture, but culture as a whole, right?
Yeah.
That was very important. The second turning point when I was assigned to a joint venture that was strategic for Italy because we were building first of its kind offshore regasification plan that was accountable for more than 10% import of LNG, liquefied natural gas, to Italy, which is very
Wow.
much dependent on external resources. So
Okay.
that was another turning point where basically I started, working as a controller, right? Learning about and applying, if you will, my study background as a CPA. That was kind of a unique, adventure because everything was first of its kind. There was no offshore regas facility in Italy before. We were building a $5 billion facility, but from
Wow.
with components coming from different part of the world. So different tax jurisdiction, different tax challenges. We needed
Oh
to
yeah.
implement an ERP system. We needed to hire people. We needed to decide financial processes. We needed to everything. We needed to build a new corporate governance and so on and so forth. That was another turning point. So what I learned is that through the challenges, even if are new to a job, but if
Hmm.
you bring energy and curiosity is one of the most important things. Curiosity and eagerness to learn,
For
then
sure.
you overcome any difficulties, and by doing this you grow a lot.
Yeah.
After
Being
these,
a
please,
continual learner is so important. Somebody that's
absolutely.
wanting to always learn.
Always learn. And after these, I had different assignment as kind of a divisional CFO, Europe, Africa, Middle East, being responsible for financial reporting and merger and acquisition for the affiliates in Europe. And then, finally in the US, where I had global controllers role, and more recently, working in the finance transformation space. That is one of the hot topics that we have, across industries. And as we
Okay.
speak, thanks to good networking that I have, I'm playing a kind of a capacity advisory capacity role, with people that come to me and ask. Advices about how best transforming, processes.
Okay.
And those are companies which are, I don't know, PE backed, private equity backed,
Hmm.
that are interested and that are growing and are interested in going in pre-IPO, so before
Okay.
going listed. The other, which is good to be looked at as an expert, across industries and financial disciplines, so that I'm evaluating also some other, let's say, opportunities to support other companies, in these, growth
Yeah.
journey
Well, it sounds
across the
like a lot of
U.S.
great opportunities in your future there. So, as you've gone along this, pretty interesting journey, what's one of your biggest challenges you've had to overcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. Of course, I had challenges, of course. Um, One challenge, and I have several examples, but I'll try to be as concise as possible. So I had a challenge, which was I was mentioning an healthy tension point with another senior executive. We were working in a project, and in these big projects, multi-billion projects, where you try to transform the way the corporation works to be
Hmm.
more effective and efficient, so to better compete in the marketplace. So we had different views on how to speed up, the project
Okay.
timeline and basis. And because a lot of people in top management was focused more on deliverables rather than way to get to the deliverables, way to get to the objective. One of the immediate response to challenges was to add more people,
Uh,
add more people, add more people. And instead of, focusing on how best utilize the people we have in
you
this
have.
project, how
Oh, good.
best, you know, exploit the talents those people in the project could bring, to the project. How can we grow the experience of the
Yeah.
people in the project instead of, going for the shortcut and adding more people to, speed up the project?
Yeah.
So there was kind of a challenge to say I wanted to focus more on quality, and people, others, that were so into delivering, were
Yeah.
focusing more on the quantity.
Quantity. Yeah. No, that was good because getting the best out of the people you have would be
Exactly.
seems more efficient.
Exactly. That was one of the challenges. And of course, I had some others in my long, let's say,
Yes. Lots of
journey.
them. Well, congratulations. Sounds like things are going well and you've got a lot of new, exciting stuff in front of you.
Yep.
It's a lot of times as executives are busy, they think of outside opportunities also, maybe investment or make some mailbox money. What have you ever considered creating other sources of income outside of your main business?
That's another very good question because we all are multifaceted, right? We are made of different things. So I like to share with you all that I am a musician as
Oh,
well,
neat.
and that goes back in my early days when I was a boy, that I coincidentally started playing the piano. So after 8 years playing the piano, so I was done with playing classic. So because I have perfect pitch and I can play any kind of music, that I was entertaining in Rome, my home city, and playing jazz in different clubs. So what I want to say is that in my dream is still to let's say have time to play music. And thanks to my music and passion that I have for, I can share also a passion that I have for Stevie Wonder.
Oh,
That I got close to Stevie's musicians.
oh,
They that
neat.
happened to become among my best friends in music. They are in LA, and so we reconvene rarely, but when we are together, we play gigs together.
Oh,
So that
that's
is
fun.
not, what I'm thinking of to,
Yeah.
let's say, raise some more money, but it's just to have fun. To have
Yeah,
fun. The
no,
other
and well,
is
that's very valuable too. Sometimes more than creating the income, but just having that outlet to do that. That's awesome.
absolutely. The other Nick that with three teenagers, I have the twins. My daughter Olivia is going to Baylor, Waco, and my other son Texas A&M, and so I have already kind of a mindset to say, okay, Dad, I would like to do this, I would like to do that. So ideally, and in my dream, it would be to help, my kids,
Yeah,
building their future.
that's wonderful. I have a daughter that's going to be a junior at Texas A&M, and then another one that's going to be a freshman this year. So we may cross paths there at some point. We
Absolutely,
we
yeah, that
go
would
and
be
I
pleasure.
went. That's where I went to school too. So we go down to for a few football games every year and different events.
That's
So
awesome.
It's fun. So, after wrapping up the interview, what are any exciting plans or initiatives you have for the next 6 to 12 months?
Oh, that's good. My initiative is to again get settled in again in if you will in the US. Today we are in Houston. Tomorrow, who knows? It
Yeah.
really depends on things. We see ourselves as citizens of the world. So we have lived in several places. I lived in Brussels, in Belgium, several places in Italy, in the US, and so on and so forth. But the next 6 to 12, it would be really from a family viewpoint to see my kids, starting well,
Yeah.
right, with the right pace. Would like to see them, happy with their choice. And for me, it would be still having fun, which I'm having fun and looking at how the industries are changing,
Hmm.
are evolving, not only in the energy space, of course, where I spend, but also spend most of my career, but more and more, across the industries, because there is a commonality, which is no one company can survive in the industry if they don't develop resilience,
Hmm.
if they don't develop capacity to look there for the impossible.
Hmm.
Okay, so I would see myself in 6 to 12 months again, being considered and still help companies on this journey,
Yeah.
right? And help them succeeding,
That's
with
awesome.
whatever
And
objective they have.
I have no doubt that you're going to do that and really help somebody out. That's awesome. So thank you so much for joining us today and
Thank
sharing
you, Nick.
great information on your journey. If people would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So the best way to do that is through my LinkedIn. You will find me is Gianluca Pizzini, so you can recognize me because of these
Yeah. The universe behind it.
universe background. And there you will find also my email, which I can share with you, is
Sure.
G like golf, G Pizzini 69, G Pizzini, Pizzini 69 at gmail.com. I will be happy
Awesome.
to, respond and network.
Awesome. Gianluca, thank you so much. It's been great getting to visit with you. And thank you again for joining. And thanks everyone for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. Be sure to tune back in.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you.
You're
Keep in
welcome.
touch.
Hey,
Thank
good
you.
to have
Bye.
you.
Thanks for listening to the Flex Forward podcast. If you've got grit, growth, and a great story, visit flexforwardpodcast.com/guest to apply and join us on the show.